It has been a little while since the 5th edition of Vampire has come out, and since then people have been playing this game in loads of unexpected, fascinating ways, using the rule set in, things, ways that weren't intended, or creating videos on TikTok where they stitch each other in the Exeter by Night game. And a lot of what excites me about this new player's guide is the fact that this responds to the way that people are playing the game now, as opposed to whatever original design and intent was created at the very beginning. And it is fascinating because it provides a lot of practical tools. So I should say thank you very much to World of Darkness for providing this PDF to me for free so I could review it. But I'm going to go through this as I normally do, picking out cool bits, showing you what is new and interesting, and having a look at the slightly different design philosophy that has, as I say, responded to the way people play. I would say just at the top here, if you are a player that has already collected most of the books and you're very familiar with it, you might not need this book. But it does have new powers, it does have new stuff in it that, might tempt you. Honestly, a lot of what is in this book has already been written elsewhere in things like the Cults of the Blood Gods book or the Camarilla and Anarch things. This is a collection. This is a useful one-stop shop for a bunch of stuff that you can reference extremely easily. And a lot of this stuff was sorely needed. Let's start with what is undoubtedly the most unexpected, coolest, and most interesting in terms of lore and rules: new clanbanes. These are presented as variants, meaning that if, for instance, you are a Toreador and you feel like during your campaign you keep forgetting to remove dice from your discipline dice pools because you're in an ugly place that your Toreador hates, what might be a bit more practical is having the Toreador Bane here of, if we find it, the agonizing empathy, where if you hurt someone during feeding, you have reciprocal damage to your body as internal bleeding and bruising that shows up as fang marks on your neck, for instance. The way it's written is that all of the Toreador in your campaign will have this, unless you are a glutton for punishment and there is obviously a new flaw which you can take to have both Banes, because why not? Who doesn't love pain? If you're a vampire, give me multiple Banes. Give me 10 Banes. That's where the meat is for me. But as a general rule, it says to replace all of the Toreador Banes in your campaign. If your player decides and the GM decides to go with this one, that is what all Toreador have. There's no guessing like, oh, are they going with the having aesthetic problems, or are they going with the empathy thing? Do we have to guess what this NPC has? No, I think it's a very smart, simple way to just change the vibe of a clan. Which at one point during play, I've been playing this game for several years, and I think a lot of the more experienced people like me have probably experienced the feeling the edges of and the constraints of this system as a way to create and express characters. And honestly, a lot of what is in this book allows for more of that and expands those horizons a little bit, but none more than these Banes, because if you decide, and this honestly is my least favorite, the Tremere one, if you decide that Tremere have stolen blood, they have to do more rouse checks if they want to just add to a normal roll, because they stole their blood and they are less adept with it because it is technically not theirs. And I think that just hurts my little Tremere soul. And I'm probably feeling a little more sensitive about that one than I otherwise would, because Tremere are blood mages, damn it. They're really, really cool and good with blood, honest. But there you go. There's the narrative implication of what an entire clan has with a slightly adapted Bane. Still, all of them, I would say, sticks to the core concepts and principles and actions that you can achieve playing a Tzimisce or Tremere or Toreador. But all of these Banes are more likely to turn up. A lot of the Banes in the core rulebook require a lot of adjudication and attention that might not necessarily be there. Like, I've definitely forgotten to apply Banes to Brujah rolling for their frenzy if they have to take dice off that dice pool. But if there is a moment when a Brujah is trying to kick the crap out of a bunch of people, they are going to absolutely do extra damage to unintended people, unintended ways. Which honestly, this is one of my favorites because it really reminds me of the bull character in Masks. If you've played that Powered by the Apocalypse game, it straight up reminds me of that. And rules is written here, it's saying, you know, an NPC or a character gets hurt by you and you do aggravated damage unless you spend willpower. I would say there's also probably unintended damage to buildings, things around you. You can apply it in so many interesting ways. I really, really like this. And as I say, this is probably more likely to come up as a Brujah when you're punching things, and then you're like, oh no, obviously there's extra stuff that's going to get damaged than, and same for like the Nosferatu. There's just, you can just describe how you're constantly surrounded by bugs and rats and horrible things that you can't control or get away from, as opposed to remembering to take dice off when you're doing a social roll. My favorite is the Ventrue hierarchy one. It's just so evocative of classic boardroom BS or, royal court stuff where the lower generation vampire is than you have less dice against them if you're using powers. It's just so interesting that obviously the Ventrue, the ones that are all about power and hierarchy, are the ones that are less likely to challenge older, lower, more powerfully blooded vampires. It can just be so interesting if there's the ancient vampire in the boardroom slamming his fist down like, you will do what I say, I'm going to make this company millions, and all the young Ventrue are like, oh no, we're going to go bankrupt. But we can't do anything against this dude because I've only got Dominate 2 and that's us done. Nosferatu as well is absolutely awesome for me. They're still horrendous to be around, but it is because of the environment infested with animals and rats and bugs that no one wants to be around. No one wants to be around that. Taking a menagerie with what you wear wherever you go, that's disgusting. Ravnos' unbirthed name is also very cool because I definitely notice a lot of my characters in Vampire tend to take on new names when they die, and having something for that, excellent. Now, the clans in this book are things that have, as I say, already been written about in other books. If you have those books, you might not need this, but it is very useful to have them all collected in one place. And there have been a couple of erratas. I believe there's been some changes, some names, there's some extra info stuff here. And for instance, if we go down to the Hecata, which will, no, that's not them. I can't do the alphabet. Where are you, Hecata? The Hecata, their compulsion has been errated. So morbidity instead of having to watch something die by non-supernatural means or investigate a death, which seems like its own storyline in of itself. This one is a lot more immediate and quicker, where you have to move something from life to death or vice versa. Mwah. Oh, so cool. I mean, the other one is cool in its own way, but this one very immediate comparatively. And again, Salubri have extra stuff to them. I think there's honestly been some words changed around in all of these clans, but usefully there are now Salubri archetypes, where it was a rare clan, so a Salubri could be basically whatever you wanted it. There's use in guidance to the kind of things that a Salubri character will do. Is unwilling healer, seeker of truth, monster against monsters. It is kind of an anti-vampire in some senses. And honestly, this shirt is cool as fuck. I want to wear that. It would go well with my Drag Pack t-shirt. Speaking of, the art in this book is genuinely cool. Some of it's from, this is from the companion, I believe, but there are other, there's portraits of a lot of vampires here, and they're really beautifully drawn. And really get to the heart of what a Tzimisce vampire or whatever clan can look like. And there's also some of this artist, MK. I don't actually know their name, but I love their art style with the glitches and the layers and the way that they photo edit their subjects. I believe they started doing stuff for the Hunter books, but I'm really glad it's been brought over to Vampire, because these are just so cool. Like they bring in a cityscape and like a pained vampire at the same time in like a really abstract way. So something that is really important to me is trying to understand and create a believable, interesting, complex world when I'm storytelling. And there is a lot of stuff for storytellers in here. This part in particular, I think, is probably really short and one of the most useful things I've read in terms of how you think about what vampires can do. It's stuff about words, and I've always complained about the vast glossary of nonsense that comes with vampire, even though it genuinely adds to the atmosphere. But these are very normal words, such as control, but it has some subtleties to it. They describe vampires as being able to influence. They do not control a police force. They do not control a ghoul. They influence mortal politics. They influence with money, with bribes, with threats, and however you want to do that. It is not a direct control. It just means that one person has been paid off, as opposed to everyone in the force knows that they work for this one vampire, or someone that is very powerful and they don't want to touch them. That is a soft, these are all kind of very soft ways of interacting with the mortal world. One, a little bit contentious for me is the serve the clan thing. I love the concept of clan mates working together. He describes them here as like distant cousins that you don't necessarily have to like. I enjoy stories where clans are all together, but I know that that's not really how things tend to work in real life. You can be really close with your family, but where you spend most of your effort is with the work or a charity group or whatever you put your effort into, and that is more like a faction of the Camarilla. It is more believable than, all the Malkavians in the world getting like something through the webway and going, cool, it's time to turn all of the frogs gay. I don't know. It's not quite like that. I do have fun with it, but it is some genuinely good advice. While we are talking about clans, and we've been through the clans a little bit already, interestingly, this book groups the clans themselves separately from what it calls the cast-offs, which is caitiff, thin bloods, mortals, and ghouls, which it provides rules as well as advice for playing someone who is, subservient or possibly even enslaved in some way, and making sure that that is an interesting character dynamic without being difficult for the actual players. There's some excellent advice for considerate play, as always, which is appreciated. Caitiff tended to be, we can all say it, for power gamers. No heat. I love you. I love power gamers. It's not for me, but we know what caitiff are. But they provide stuff for the caitiff players in terms of specific merits and flaws to really get into that that kind of super special orphan, cast off because they don't have a clan bane. No one likes them because they're super powerful and they can take whatever power they want. So I genuinely think the special caitiff merits are excellent for leaning into that. You have, for instance, favored blood, where you can very easily buy dots in any discipline that you've never tasted before in another vampire's blood. You can really lean into that stuff in fun ways to get the kind of character you want. And as always, the merits in this are, not always straight up benefits. They are more likely to make you suspicious, as people will be of a caitiff anyway. But you could have ways to do what people often do with caitiff and pretend to be another clan. You can actually have the clan bane at a weaker level than a normal vampire to help you fit in. It also provides the opportunity to be friends with a bunch of thin bloods, which is really cute. I like that idea, Uncle Fangs. But yeah, having stuff specifically for caitiff in the way that you do for thin bloods genuinely makes them a much more appealing class to play. And the thin bloods themselves, the Twilight Children, those Duskborn, get more stuff. And like I say, I started playing this game with the Bloodlust Chronicle on this channel because I was so enamored with the concept of thin bloods. It took stuff from V20 and revised that I really enjoyed reading about, like what was the half vampire, the Dhampir. I loved reading about that in the old editions, and they brought in a lot of that into this thin blood stuff, which really inspired me to create a thin blood only chronicle. And a lot of other people, there's also Huddy, there's the Are We Dead Yet on Huddy's channel, which is amazing, and the players there are so cool because you can really lean into the thin blood story hooks of, do we try and claw to new power and lead ourselves into the night, or do we try and maybe in a futile attempt try and become human again? Is that something we can do with alchemy? They are an enigma unto themselves, the thin bloods, and I genuinely love them for that, which you can lean into if you really want. There is advice for starting your own thin blood stuff. So I hope more people do more thin blood stuff because they are genuinely interesting. I'm not going to go over the ghouls and the mortals and all of the clans individually because I think either you can read about that stuff yourself. A lot of it is pretty self-explanatory or written about elsewhere. So this is great to have very easily, but let's move on to something else interesting. Now this one is bittersweet for me because I have personally benefited from the fact that making a character in Vampire is a bit of a pain in the ass. So if you want to go watch my character creation video, you can. Or you can get this book because it does a much better job of breaking down all of the skills in really easily accessible ways with, this quick stuff. Oh, also there's new predator types, which I really needed. There's new predator types, thank God. There's also a lot of explanation of the character sheet, which is really great, and instant vampires. If you are showing around a new player into this game and you do not have time, Get them to use this instant vampire rules. Oh my god, you do 3 things. That is it. You pick how you want to play, whether that's like the face, the brute, or the mastermind. You want to be smart, you want to be strong, etc. Motivation. In one word, it's revenge, it's redemption, it's power. Those give you like your ambition, your advantages, some convictions, everything you need. And then you pick your clan, and it gives you all of the powers you need. These are built so that you have exactly the same stuff as a no XP vampire, custom created, but you just fill in the dots. Oh, it's so much quicker. Genuinely need this. And also, that dude there, staring into my soul. I love him. He's a bit creepy. I love it. There's little bits here to get the narrative juices flowing if you need them, but you can have a character sheet in minutes. Oh, needed this so much. Genuinely, this is probably the part of the book that I am going to use the most. I do spend a lot of time introducing people to the game, so yes, in love with this. Not new in any particular way, but extremely helpful. Okay. And the other thing I genuinely love is that Animalism got some love. There's new Animalism powers, everyone. This never happens. There's new Thin Blood powers, new blood stuff as well, which is, I wouldn't say underserved. Thin Blood definitely, but so Animalism is actually genuinely interesting to me because it is such a well thought out, focused and interesting power with a very specific concept. You either have dominion over animals or dominion over your own beast and other people's vampiric beasts. That is so interesting, and I am surprised that they didn't do more earlier with these concepts. And as we can see here, I love all of these Animalism powers. They're all great for all sorts of reasons. And you can send animal messengers. You can send dominate through animals. You can curse someone to be plagued by beasts. They're useful narratively. They are fun and interesting, and still stick to that concept of the vampiric beast or beasties around you. And Melpomene! If you want to play a Daughter of Cacophony, go download the lore sheet online. I think it's on the World of Darkness website. I can't remember properly. But Melpomene, there's stuff for Daughters of Cacophony here. You want to sing people until their heads explode? You can't do that, but you can throw your voice, and you can use powers through your voice exclusively without seeing them and stuff like that. I don't know why Daughters of Cacophony are getting so much love, but they genuinely are one of my favorite kind of Toreador alternatives. Yes, they're brilliant. I love them. And generally, I've been very positive about this book because I do think it's great. Some of the powers are overlap a little bit with what I would, as a storyteller, allow people to do with other things, like Relentless Grasp or Wrecker here. It's not a huge problem having more options to do specific things. For instance, destroying things outside of combat for free is genuinely a great thing you can do with potence, but is it required? I would probably allow a player to do this kind of thing anyway, but if you are a by the books kind of by the letter kind of storyteller, then yes, this is an option for you. I don't find it particularly evocative compared to stuff that we already have for potence, but I do get that there aren't a ton of extra powers for it, so it's good to have, Subtle Hammer is very cool, but that's level 5, so I don't know how often that will come up compared to the lower level stuff. I don't think Oblivion has anything new aside from the ability. Where is it? You get a little shadow servant. You get a little spooky friend to do your bidding. I love that. That's very cool as a power. It's not even a ritual either, and yeah, it's just kind of cute. Speaking of rituals, we do tend to get a lot of blood sorcery rituals. They tend to be very specific in scope and context and ability, and I think it's interesting that they have avoided making it the kind of Swiss Army knife that it was in previous things. You shoot lightning, you could melt wood, you could do all sorts of things. This puts a lot more restrictions on blood sorcery in interesting ways, and I'm so glad that they brought back from previous editions my favorite. This is my genuine favorite ritual. It's not even that useful, but you can put blood into a little trinket for later. It's so narratively interesting. It makes sense for what a blood mage would do. You prepare, you get things ready, and it's nice to have that written out and not as a homebrew, so that I can sometimes be an artificer Tremere instead of just a massive asshole. Something that doesn't get used a lot that I've seen is Memoriam, which, if you don't know, because I've certainly never used it, is a way of going into an ancient vampire's memory, kind of guiding a story segment or a very quick memory retrieval scene that gives you an advantage or a disadvantage or finds you a secret. Basically, it's a really interesting concept, but I've never come across it. But there is more stuff to support that in this book. There's even a huge section describing how you can get stuff from it, whether that's a discipline, in this case as a ritual, or, you know, more advantages and ways to use it interestingly. But yeah, having a blood ritual for this makes a lot of sense, so that a Tremere mage can, or a Banu Hakim can go and assist a very ancient vampire retrieve memories. That's a really cool story opportunity. More thin blood alchemy, we need lots more of this, and I think we're getting a blood sigils book, which should include a bunch, but like charging your phone with your finger, I assume I'm not reading that. Charging your phone makes a lot of sense, and honestly my favorite one is Friends List, just because I like playing investigative characters, being able to see the threads of connection between different characters. And obviously at level 5, Thin Bloods get special diablerie, because of course they do. Even Thin Bloods are horrible, desperate, terrible people. One thing in previous editions that I really wasn't very inspired by were the new, or some of the new predator types. The one where you like kill people by the side of the road didn't make a lot of sense to me as a very specific way of doing things, but these do, and I can't see where the line is between like a good one and a bad one, but these are all great. Like some of them are from other books, but a couple of them are brand new, like Grim Reaper. It makes a lot of sense for a really human centric vampire to kill and eat the people that are already going to die. And if you want to put your vampire in a hospital or something like that, it fits really nicely. It provides a lot of scenes that you can play out, which, you know, don't always come up if you're not doing a feeding scene. But much like the Clan Bane variants, these are here just expand the horizons of the possibilities for your character, and also, you know, give you different opportunities to get out of clan powers and things, the specialties that you probably wouldn't consider otherwise. I'd just like to point out one of the new Haven merits, which is Furcus. I don't know why it's not spelled focus. Maybe it's furry. Maybe it's for furries, but I enjoy it because you have to focus to do the magic. And I think the one thing that has encouraged me about this book more than any other is this more forms of play section. It describes actual plays. It describes TikTok play-by posts, Discord play-by posts, just one-shot play, rules and guidance for playing the way that fits you. If you want to play solo by yourself, it has a little bit of prompt for you to really get into that and have fun with it in the easiest, most convenient way for you. Because as we all know, the most difficult thing about role-playing is the scheduling. So a convenient way to have sessions, it's even got troop play in here, which is where you have a cast of players which will play multiple characters depending on the scene and requirement, which I love, but is, you know, I wouldn't say it's the default way of playing, but it gives you options and it explores and really reacts to the way that the community has been talking about Vampire over the last few years and exploring Vampire, which has taken it in its own direction. This game wouldn't be anything without the Vamily, and I am genuinely proud to be a part of all of you wonderful people telling me your stories and learning about all the actual plays and stuff going on online on Twitch or whatever, and having that part of the community reflected in this book is great news for the fact that the World of Darkness team, they are listening, they are here, and they are looking to provide you the stuff that you need. I think I started by saying exactly how useful this book might be to you, but as kind of a conclusion, this is a book for the community, this is a book for the way that people play now, and is a tool. More than anything else, it is a tool full of useful stuff that is easily referenceable, which God knows the cool core rulebook wasn't. New players, get the core rulebook, get this. Old hands, grab the new variant stuff, the new powers, or, you know, stick with the books you've got. It really is just extremely useful, and I can't wait to see what are you going to be using this for. Are you going to be choosing the new clanbane variants? I would love to know what useful stuff you want to see and you are going to be using from this book in the comments. And as always, if you are interested in vampires or role-playing in general, subscribe, hit the bell, blah 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 blah. I hope this has been useful to you, and I cannot wait to talk about more vampire books coming up in the future. Okay, till next time, goodbye.